Alexandra of Denmark, the long-suffering queen, consort of Britain. Alexandra of Denmark went from rags to riches. She became a royal as well as the most unlikeliest fashion icon of all time. Please continue to support my channel by subscribing. She lived a turbulent life of tragedy alongside immense privilege, and it is thought that she even caused a limping pandemic in London. Throughout the years, her fortunes and her outfits changed, but tragedy was never far away, with compounding drama and scandal filling her life. I will explore the life of Alexandra and how she rose from a dismal life sleeping in a dusty old attic to becoming the Queen Consort of Britain and living in a palace. Alexandra of Denmark, or Alex as her family called her, was born in 1844 in Denmark. She grew up alongside her 5 siblings, of whom were of no importance to anyone worth being known to. They were part of a small and insignificant cadet branch of the House of Oldenburg, the royal house in Denmark. Up until the age of 18, she lived a comfortable life in total obscurity before things took a full 360 and she ended up living a life of riches and privilege. Alexandra was able to live a charmed childhood, and she grew up in Copenhagen's famous Yellow Palace, rent-free, as well as receiving some other perks. She was read to at night by the famous Danish author Hans Christian Andersen. He would visit the palace and read her bedtime stories to her and her siblings. This is the famous author of many traditional children's stories, such as The Little Mermaid, The Ugly Duckling, and Thumbelina. Despite enjoying some creature comforts, Alexandra's childhood life lacked other luxuries, excluding her family home at the palace and a very famous storyteller. However, her family were really quite impoverished. Having a world-famous writer as a bedtime storyteller might have been more of a necessity than a luxury, because she wasn't sleeping in luxury. Alexandra's bedroom was a drafty old attic that she shared with her sister Dagmar. Very few royals have either had to humiliate themselves with an honest day's work, but Alexandra did. She was so poor that she had to stoop low enough to do the unimaginable for a princess. She had to wait on tables as a waitress. Despite having a job, she could still not afford the fashion and clothing that a royal needed. To solve this problem, she turned to making her own clothes, and it didn't take long before she was the one setting the trends. After years of her family living in poverty, her luck was about to change when a political turmoil of succession in Denmark made her father next in line for the throne. Their luck had taken a 360-degree flip straight from the bottom to the tops. Suddenly her sisters became some of the most eligible princesses on the European marriage market. Although the family was still not full of riches, the girls did attract some of the most wealthiest and prestigious men in Europe. But unfortunately for Alexandra, not all of that attention was for the best. One of the most eligible bachelors of Europe was about to be matched to her through his mother, the Queen of England. Queen Victoria was trying to find her wayward son Edward a wife in the hopes of curbing his rebellious behaviour. He was the heir to the throne and future King Edward VII. The sister of Edward was good friends with Alexandra of Denmark, and it was time for the pair to meet each other. Edward was taken to meet Alexandra under the guise that he would be taking part in military training, but he got more than he bargained for in the small town of Germany when he gained a fiancée from the trip. This turn of events was surreal for Alexandra, who had only recently been propelled into this new life of privilege. She had dreamt of her Prince Charming, aka Dirty Bertie, but was he really that? She wasn't the Queen of England's first choice of a bride for her son, but after exhausting a long list of potential matches, the British royal family called Alexandra the only one to be chosen. That's the British way of saying, I guess you'll do. Poor Alexandra, if only she knew what she was getting herself into. The engagement was agreed and Edward proposed less than a year after meeting her, despite putting it about with other women at the same time. Alexandra would finally have the money she needed to live as a real royal woman, but she was oblivious to the traumas of her marriage and future with Edward. The pair had a fairy tale wedding, as would be expected of the future King of England, but their marriage was full of tragedy and scandal. Alexandra arrived in England on a royal yacht for the ultimate welcome from the people of Britain, with the sweet sound of a specially composed music playing in the background. Alexandra became an overnight sensation in her new home, and her sense of style would cause shockwaves throughout the fashion world in due time. Alexandra wasn't used to or ever expected to be living a life of such privilege and wealth. Only a short few years earlier, she was waiting tables and sleeping in an attic. It was this shock that drove their decision to have a reserved and small wedding with Edward, which disappointed the crowds of the people of England. Although small, the wedding was still a fairy tale and extremely impressive, with shows of opulent wealth at every angle. It was her sense of style that went viral. Alexandra's days of darning her own shabby dresses were all behind her. She posed for photos in her royal wedding dress, alongside a pearl necklace and 3 diamond bracelets. Alexandra was an avid seamstress, but there was no way she could have sewn her own wedding dress. The train for Alexandra's silk satin dress was so long that it required 8 ladies to carry it down the aisle. If only she had this much support throughout her turbulent marriage to the scandalous but much-loved Prince Edward. It was as if her whole family had made a deal with the devil when all of their fates changed for the better. In just 2 years, her father had ascended to the Danish throne, her brother had become King of Helenas, and her sister Dagmar was married to the Russian Savik. Alexandra was not in favour with the Queen of England, her mother-in-law, had not taken a liking to her, which was not uncommon for Queen Victoria, who it is argued didn't like anyone. Having a nightmare mother-in-law is hard enough, but Alexandra had it hard because her mother-in-law was the most powerful woman in Europe. While the kingdom might have been singing Alexandra's praises, Queen Victoria saw right through her couture clothing. The Queen resented Alexandra's Danish loyalties, but it wasn't her loyalties that the Queen should have been concerned about. The details of her marriage to Edward are shrouded in doubt. Some claim they had a happy one, but others believe that Victoria played the third wheel in their relationship. One thing is for certain, her husband was a huge womanizer, which must have been a difficult reality to live with. The vows that the couple made, Alexandra took very seriously as a devout Christian all throughout her life. However, her husband completely ignored their vows from the very beginning, and on hundreds or thousands of occasions. It was an open secret at the time that Edward VII carried on multiple affairs throughout his marriage. It is rumoured that he had at least 55 different mistresses, not including the ladies of the night that he also frequented with. Alexandra kept tabs on every single last one of them. Alexandra enjoyed a lot of physical activities. She was an expert horsewoman and often ice skated and danced. It was her love for hunting, though, that disgruntled the Queen the most. And despite her husband having his way with whomever he pleased, he was affectionate with his wife, and they were able to produce a healthy brood of 6 children, who were all born premature. Alexandra had little control in her life. Either her husband or mother-in-law pulled all of the strings. However, she took back her control with concealing her pregnancies. It was rumoured that her babies were premature, but it may have been that she actually kept it a secret from the Queen on purpose so that the Queen Victoria would miss the birth of her grandchildren. In retaliation to missing out on the birth of her grandchildren, the Queen Victoria attempted to tell Alexandra what to name them. It wouldn't be the last time that Alexandra had to put the Queen in her place. It is a fun idea that Alexandra lied to the Queen to dupe her out of her pregnancies, but Alexandra had more to worry about. She had a hard time with childbirth, and her 3rd pregnancy nearly ended her life. Join me in part 2 to learn of the ever-compounding scandals from affairs, abortions, child loss, a permanent disfigurement, and even more fallout with Queen Victoria. Please continue to support my channel by subscribing. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories, and leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them.